Scott, and I'll be emceeing today's ceremony for you all, and just glad that you all have taken time out of your day and your schedule to gather to celebrate such an important legacy of such an iconic human being in the history of our country and this world as a whole. Would you please give another warm round of applause for the wonderful and delightful singing of the People's Community Baptist Church Men's Choir. So my promise to all of you is that we are going to have a short but meaningful day of reflection and service so that you all may continue on to complete your day of service on this King holiday, maybe in the heat for some of you all, but outside as well. For our invocation this morning, please welcome Reverend Dr. Lloyd T. McGriff. He's the senior pastor of Galilee Baptist Church, and he will be followed then by another song from our choir.
Let us pause and pray. Eternal God, we thank you for the life, the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As we gather this early morning, we are reminded of the words of encouragement, the nuggets that were shared by Dr. King, that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That in the end we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. This morning we gather standing because a man cannot ride your back when you're standing upward. Bless every presenter, every word, every thought, every idea that is shared this morning, that we leave this place encouraged and determined. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm marching on the upward way. New heights I'm gaining every day, still praying as I onward bound. Lord, plant my feet on higher ground. Higher ground. That's what we strive for. Higher ground. Blessed, and we shall be better. Touched, and a change has to come. In thy name we do pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend McGriff. We are now going to have Harry Johnson come to the podium. He is the president and CEO of the Memorial Foundation, which is the organization that spearheaded the creation of this memorial. So we'll have a few words from him right now.
Good morning. Y'all can do better than that. Good morning. Okay? I mean, let's act like it's April. We know it's not, but let's act like it's April. I mean, come on now. I mean, as many of you know, I spend half my time in D.C. and half my time in Houston. So, Vince, I even took off my gloves. So, you know, hey, let's roll with this program. Let's roll with it. But how thankful we are to be out here this morning. Before I begin my comments, I want to thank all of you for braving the cold. Our board members, our friends, our dear supporters, but also Bob Stanton. I always call Bob Stanton out because Bob, as you know, was the first African-American director of the National Park Service. Please give Bob a round of applause. I always thank him for what he's done. It's my understanding, Bob, that you have a new job, that you're on the board for the African-American Culture Heritage Action Foundation Advisory Committee, right? And what is it, did you give out money? We at the Memorial Foundation are friends. Number one. Are friends, thank you. Let me just tell you how blessed we are to be out here today. Can you imagine, Ray Dempsey, that here we are 50 years past the assassination of Dr. King. And quite simply what that means, Mr. Secretary, is that 2 generations of Americans did not know anything about Dr. King other than what they read about in the history book. So we thank you, Mr. Secretary, for having the foresight to continue funding for this memorial, keeping it up, for people to come out on days like this to honor Dr. King. But for this memorial being here, this is a place, a sacred place where we honor the memory of Dr. King on a day like today. I wish it were April. I wish it were March, June, but today is a special day as we celebrate and honor the legacy of Dr. King. Let us continue to think about what the themes of this memorial stand for. They stand for justice, hope, democracy, and love. In these times in which we live, we need Dr. King's theme and Dr. King's thoughts more than ever. Justice, Mr. Ray. Democracy, all of us. Hope for many of us, and love for the great majority. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate you coming out. I want to now bring up my chairman of the board, Mr. Guy Vickers. Guy Vickers is the president of the PVH Foundation. He's a little under the weather, but Guy and Tommy Hill from the PVH supported us from day one. I say this all the time, and I always have to keep reminding you all that I think Tommy Hilfiger and PVH are into us now for about $7.5 million. Now, we're not getting that now, but I mean, they stepped up along with other folks. So please welcome Guy Vickers, president of the PVH Foundation, our chairman.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me try it one more time. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to be here with you today, and please forgive me. I'm fighting a little cold, but it's another year of celebration and reflection. And I look forward to coming here every year for this most special occasion. I wanted to just take a moment and recognize my son, Guy. He's the big guy, I'm little Guy, my 10-year-old. And my wife is back at the hotel. She had a little accident and she's on crutches, so she couldn't come today. So she's very disappointed, but her spirit is here with us today. I want to just take a quick moment to thank the Memorial Foundation board. We're small, but we're mighty, and I definitely want to recognize Michael Bennett, who's here, Chris Darling, is Chris here? Is Kit Benson here? Okay. The board are special. They've been committed and they've been involved for a long time. I also want to take a quick moment, Harry, because last year I did not do it and I couldn't forgive myself. I want to acknowledge the memorial staff. They do a tremendous job and they keep things going, and I just want to let them know that we value and appreciate them. We at the PVH Corporation, we strongly believe in diversity, equality, and service. We support this cause not just because we think it's the right thing to do, because we know it is. It's in our DNA to be involved in meaningful projects. We fund things from Save the Children, which is our global partner, to autism, to Ronald McDonald House, and a number of other projects all around the globe. All 35,000 employees are really committed to serving and giving back, and to me, it's just a great place to work when you have people like that. I may be wrong, and Harry did mention that 7.5, but Harry, I think it's really more towards the 8 and pushing $1 million, and we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it going. As we come upon 50 years since the untimely death of Dr. King, it's more important than ever before, as Harry mentioned, that we keep the dream alive and that we celebrate the man of peace. At the PVH Foundation, we continue to support the Memorial Foundation, and we want to make sure that Dr. King's legacy of justice, hope, and democracy and love continues on forever. Please enjoy our short program, and God bless all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, and thanks so much to the foundation for the work that you've done to bring this site to fruition and help so many Americans and people across the globe understand exactly what Martin Luther King did for our society as a whole and what we can continue because of his efforts. Next, I want to just recognize the dignitaries in the audience. We have former Washington, D.C. Mayor, Mr. Vince Gray. And if there are more whose names I've forgotten, we would love to see you wave your hand, but we're glad that everyone else is here to just continue to do what we have gathered here to do this morning. But in this moment, what we're going to do is have one more selection from this awesome men's choir, and we just ask that you enjoy it and take their words to heart.
just don't know which way to turn. Oh, I heard of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make heaven. Of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make heaven my home.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. We're now going to have some brief words from former Mayor Vincent Gray. Former mayor was the mayor when this site opened and has been a long-time supporter of the efforts to have this memorial come to fruition, and we would love to hear his thoughts this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It really is April out here, isn't it? I want to first of all welcome all of you to the once again the celebration of the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to thank Harry Johnson also, who did such a fantastic job to be able to see that we are here today, to be able to celebrate this fantastic memorial, this fantastic symbol of what Dr. King lived for. It's already been said that he lived for democracy, he lived for justice, hope, and love. And Dr. King's words ring so true today as we stand here in celebration of his birthday. So I am delighted to be here. I well remember the opening. I was here for the celebration of that. I'll never forget when the SUV drove up. It was an earthquake that day, and we had a hurricane soon behind that. But it was all symbolic of what Dr. King stood for. I never forget saying to the guys, the detailer with me, as the car started shaking, I said, "Don't you have time to take this car in and get it tuned up?" And of course, it was a natural event that we were experiencing. And I want to also say hello to Bob Stanton, who has done such a great job representing so many people. But we are here today to celebrate the assassination of Dr. King. just reminds you of what he stood for. And thank you all very much for coming out. I hope we're all here 50 years from now as we continue to remember what Dr. King stood for. Thank you all very much, and have a great day.
We are now going to hear from Harry Turner. Mr. Turner is the special agent in charge of the Houston Division of the FBI, and he will introduce the director of the FBI.
Everybody, good morning. As you guys well know, it is not this cold in Houston, Texas. It's about 55 degrees, but I'm here. It is my honor to introduce Director Christopher Wray. He is a native of New York City, attending undergrad and obtaining his law degree from Yale University. Director Wray returns to government service after a successful legal career in Atlanta, Georgia. Prior to that, he served in numerous capacities within the Department of Justice, as Assistant U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of Georgia, and also as the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division under President George W. Bush. I had the honor of meeting Director Wray when he came to visit my employees in Houston shortly after Hurricane Harvey. And when understanding that he was a fan of the New York Mets, I proudly presented him with a Houston Astros baseball cap. So it is with great pleasure to introduce to you the 8th Director of the FBI, Christopher Wray.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with all of you and the Secretary Zinke. And my thanks to the Memorial Foundation for giving me the opportunity to start the week in such an inspiring setting, one that means so much to so many people. As has been said, Dr. King was assassinated nearly 50 years ago, and yet his words, his sense of inclusiveness, his ideals for who we could be as a people live on. That is a remarkable legacy, but it's a living legacy. It's not static, it's not self-fulfilling, and it takes work. And there are a few words that Dr. King has said that you haven't heard before. Many of you know them by heart, but they bear repeating time and again because they were so important then and they remain so important today. And on this day, at our time in history, I find one of his quotes especially relevant. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Dr. King understood that no man is an island and that we rise and fall together. Violent crime in one neighborhood hurts all of us. Lack of equal opportunity holds all of us down. Discrimination against one person harms the whole community. And hate against one becomes hate against all. In the FBI, our mission is simple but profound: to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. We've got to abide by the rule of law in everything we do and our core values in everything we do. We have to follow the facts independently wherever they may lead, and we have to do the right thing, but to do the right thing in the right way. Protecting civil rights and preserving civil liberties are at the heart of everything we do, in every investigation, in every office across the country and around the world. And we in the FBI are charged with bending the arc of the moral universe towards justice wherever and whenever we can. But our responsibility doesn't end there. We have to do our part to ensure fairness and equality. We have to foster diversity in our own ranks to better reflect the communities that we serve. We need to understand why there may be a lack of trust in law enforcement in some communities. Communities that may not believe law enforcement has their best interests at heart based on history and experience. That's something we've got to understand. It's something we've got to change. And that's not just the right thing for law enforcement to do, it's the smart thing. We cannot do our job of protecting the American people without earning the support the cooperation, and the help of all of our communities. At the FBI, we recognize that our own history has not come without significant missteps, but we take those mistakes and we learn from them. And that's one of the reasons that we're requiring every new analyst and agent in training to take a course specifically dedicated to the FBI's interactions with Dr. King. It's why we have all of them visit this memorial, to build that understanding, to understand how we can do better at our jobs and be closer to being the best that we can be. We have to keep strengthening that fabric that ties us all together in what Dr. King called that single garment of destiny. The days of the civil rights era were often dark and defeating days, but good people kept marching. They kept protesting for what they believed, for the potential that they knew that we possessed as a nation. Dr. King and leaders and activists and ordinary citizens who stood with him kept marching because they were filled with hope and they were motivated by faith. They knew that what they were marching towards was right. They knew what they were marching for was necessary. And with every step they took, their faith continued to grow because they knew they were coming closer to changing the world. As has been said, I've spent much of my adult life in Atlanta. I'm still a Mets fan. This is a source of some controversy with my wife, who's a diehard Atlanta fan. But as one of my fellow Atlantans, John Lewis, once said, faith has the power to make a way out of no way. You may be in your darkest hour. It may be darker than 10,000 nights on your path to lasting change, but there is something in you that keeps you moving, feeling your way through the night until you can see a glimmer of light. That is the power of faith. We have made progress as a nation over the past 50 years, but it isn't enough. We still haven't reached that mountaintop that Dr. King so eloquently referenced in his final speech. We still have bridges to cross. We still confront racism. We still confront discrimination. We still confront inequality. And we will only continue to make progress if we keep marching forward together, mindful of our history, but hopeful for our future, filled with the faith that we are fighting for the common good and that we will one day reach that mountaintop together. At the FBI, we're proud to stand alongside you, fighting for what is right, fighting to protect people who can't protect themselves, fighting for justice and the rule of law. We're determined to keep doing the right thing in the right way, and we're going to continue to look to all of you and to all the communities we serve for guidance and for understanding. So together, we can keep building on Dr. King's legacy in the way that he has taught us. Thank you for including me here today.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your words, and we also appreciate the FBI. I don't know how Perry still has his job after giving you an Astros jersey, but you all worked that out. It is my honor, as well as a pleasure, for me to introduce the Secretary of the Interior. Ryan Zinke was sworn in as the 52nd Secretary of the Interior on March 1st, 2017. He is a fifth-generation Montanian and a former U.S. Navy SEAL. I don't know why you're sitting there cold things than this, Mr. Secretary.
This is cold, though.
I think we have heaters, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, sir. You know what? I'm sorry to put that on the spot to say, but it is cold out here. Secretary Zinke has had a lifelong appreciation for serving America's natural beauty. But more than that, we just thank him for what he has done around here, around the parks. But I thank him for his diversity in his office. And he'll talk a little bit more about that. But as you remember, when we had our luncheon, we had a skip with who accepted. And really, I want you to just wave your hand. So she is a Deputy Secretary of the Interior, but who? Deputy Assistant Secretary I don't think they had anybody look like you before, so we thank you, Mr. Secretary, on this King Day. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of Interior, Ryan Zinke. Secretary, thank you so much.
Well, it's good to be with you again, and it's good to be with friends. And the only thing that would extend this is to let the choir sing again. Thanks for being with me. So, you know, Interior, it's vast. It's 12 time zones. About a fifth of the territory falls in the Interior, and it's also my honor to have this among our holdings. And this is special. I walked around last week when I knew I was going to speak, and you know, I encourage all Americans to walk inside and look at the wisdom of Dr. King and read what Dr. King said. And I think the position here, as you look at the monument, I don't think it's by chance that Dr. King looks across and looks at Jefferson. And Jefferson was our author of our Declaration of Independence, and you remember the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." But when those words were inked, it did not pertain to all of God's children. And it should be also that Dr. King does not have his back to President Lincoln. He is in front of President Lincoln, as he was in 1963 on the steps, as he gave "I Have a Dream." For Dr. King was a soldier, a Christian soldier of righteousness. His dream was a fully integrated America, where all people, all faiths, genders, religions, people could share in the bounty of this great nation. His dream is highly rooted in the dream of all of us, of all Americans. We have roles in our country. As a SEAL, I can tell you the fight for freedom never ends. And we all have an obligation to make sure our fight for justice, equality, the battle that we face every day is fought and won because it is deeply rooted in us as a people. And I'm confident that we can. I'm confident that we must. For we are all God's children, and it is absolutely appropriate that we understand and remember the greatness of Dr. King. God bless, and may God bless the memory of Dr. King.
Thank you so much, Secretary. So before we move into the wreath laying ceremony, and I'll give instructions for that afterwards, we are now going to have one more selection from our choir.
Excuse me. Everybody tell somebody. Everybody tell somebody. Tell them that you know somebody. Tell them that you know somebody. The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. King of Kings.